This is Michal from Runecast, and I would like to welcome you on our today's webinar, which name is How to Find ESXi Host with Most Issues and Prevent Them. Sounds like a complicated task, but no worries. There is actually a very simple answer to that. I would like to go quickly through the agenda of today's presentation. For those who do not know Runecast, I will a little bit introduce the company. And then I would like to go over the topic, which is how to detect the most ESXi hosts with issues, and also present you the latest version of our product, version 2.0, which we recently presented on VMworld in Vegas. And also give you some space to ask questions. So I can only encourage you to use the panelists here of the GoToWebinar and ask them the question during the presentation. We'll be more than happy to answer them even immediately or at least at the end of the session. Now you should be able to see my screen, and let's get going. So first of all, for the newcomers here, so what is Runecast? Who are we? We are knowledge automation experts. We are parsing the usual knowledge to discover the potential risks of your VMware and virtualized environments. Runecast has currently one product called Runecast Analyzer. It's an on-prem solution which contains all the logic to evaluate those risks. At the moment, the product covers VMware vSphere, vSAN, ESXi, and we are able to collect from the huge VMware knowledge base, but not only from that, we are also scanning and adding the knowledge from the best practices guidelines, security guidelines, social medias, and so on. And we are continuously updating the knowledge base and our engine of definition with the new updates on a weekly basis and even on daily if it's really necessary, like in the recent issues like Spectrum meltdown or L1TF, for example. How do we, for example, compare to the other products for VMware management? You may ask yourself. Well, most of the other products are focused on the capacity and performance, whereas, as I said, we more focused on this parsing knowledge and detection of the issues. So we are not competing with the monitoring tools, so we are offering something new that you may find very useful to get your system to the maximum uptime. Scan, harden, monitor. Very quickly here, I would like to mention that during the scan, we are able to provide the continuous protection against any potential threats and risks. You can schedule the sanity checks of your vCenters, NSX or vSAN components, and send the system alert with the newly detected issues or all the issues that you have detected. For hardening, we cover a couple of compliance profiles, and this is where we can really save a lot of time and problem during the implementation of the security and improving the security by telling you exactly what and where is breaking up the security compliance, and also how to fix it, of course. And very last but not least, we are able to monitor logs in real time. So we are able to collect the logs from your hosts and virtual machines. And not only, but we are able to detect the content of the logs and correlate it to the existing knowledge, which means we are able to tell you exactly what are the problems without reading the very specific log content. For those who know us for quite time, this will be something exciting to upgrade from the version 1.x. And for those who are new again, this is the brief recap of what has been introduced recently. The version 2.0 of Runecast contains historical trending. That means now we are able to also track the full history of the changes, which is very handy if you have highly distributed teams. We will go to that during my demo. Then we are able to basically guarantee that continuous threat protection, especially for the compliancy modes where you can have up to the year of the data with the visualization of the newly detected issues or how fast you were able to fix them. PCI-DSS is the new security component and security profile we are able to deliver in this version. So for those who are interested in this can be a very useful functionality. And again, last but not least, but we update the UI of our product based on the user experience and the feedback of our current customers as well. Before we jump to demo, I would like to raise how quickly you can get on using Runecast Analyzer. Basically, the appliance itself is about 1 gigabyte OVA. You need to download it from a portal. Then you connect the vCenter, which I will also show you in a while. And then it typically takes a few minutes, sometimes even less than a minute if you have a small environment, the lab environment, to see the results. Right. Enough statical slides. I think it's always best to see the product in action. So let me actually switch to the demo. And we are here on the main dashboard of Runecast Analyzer. As you may see, it's a web interface, like logged in. And what I see on the dashboard is the most important information with the risks and health of the system. At Runecast, we are also classifying the issues that we're detecting by severities. So this is something unique we offer, but something you probably used from the other tools as well, where you see critical, major, medium. So this is something we're trying to be a standard with. We also see the amount of the recent log issues or the present log issues from your vCenters and the hosts or virtual machines. We see security compliance status, trend. You can see this kind of brief trend line here, which telling you very quickly what's going on in the midterm time period. We can see amount of technology base detected, and again the trend or best practice adoption. And this is basically, by the way, the new UI that was introduced in the version 2. Here below we have the history, which show us what is the trend of the issues, how many issues I discovered at a particular day or a week, what was the criticality and severity. Again, useful for those who would like to see if there is a new spike or gap, which leads to the configuration change of your vCenters. And here we are going actually to the title of this webinar, which is how to find the host with the most issues. As you may see, it's actually very simple here. We have this widget which is telling you the top 8 hosts at the moment that are categorized or sorted out by the amount of the issues based on this criticality. So the most critical is first, and then it counts, to the other criticalities as well. I also promised you to show you how simple it is to add a vCenter, so which is something you need to do first before you can see the host with the most issues. So you go to settings, click add vCenter, basically fill IP address, username, and password. If you drill down on the first host with the most issues, you will be provided by the list of the KBs. Something very easy, but we also added these filtering options. So let's say you care about some specific component of your system. I will select vSAN, and here you may, for example, see that the first issue on this top host with problems is the PSOD issue on vSAN. If you expand this, in this first tab here, what we will see is the description of what is the problem about and how can I solve this. So we're trying to point you here immediately to the page to download. There is a link to the VMware download page. If you're interested to read more about it, obviously we cover all the details from the knowledge and also the root cause why it's happening. And more interestingly as well, in finding tab here, you are able to see details why this issue has been triggered, what were the symptoms. In this case, it's a combination of the host version, host build number, and the fact the vSAN cluster status is set to enable. So it's a vSAN related issue. I typically mention it to the folks who are interested in our product, but also mention it to you. It's very useful to use note functionality, where you can decide to leave a message for your colleagues if you have bigger teams, what you want to plan to do with the fix of this issue. So you can either plan to fix it next week. If the node is safe, and when you next time run into similar KBs, you will be able to find it so the others can find it as well. As you may see, there is a small pop-up if you roll over the specific row that immediately show you the node that you type in there, so you don't need to even click inside. Another functionality that I would like to mention for those top hosts or the hosts with problem is the ignore functionality, or the way how you can decide if you want to encounter the problem as fully valid for you, or if you would like to exclude it from some good reason. For example, it may be a best practice, which we can again filter out here, which is the type of the issues and the categories. And you may, for example, say that you don't want to be alerted about the SSH disabling, even though it's recommended to have it turned off because you're doing some temporary changes or some maintenance, or it's a test environment, whatever. Here you can create, click the ignore button, you can create a filter that says test ignore. The host is automatically pre-selected, so you can filter it out, and then it simply will not be counted into your list. So it's gone, and you can always find it back in the filters selection here, as you may see, where you can change it at more hosts and so on. But let's go back to the most hosts with issues. From the dashboard, we can see 8, which should be probably your priority work or the place where you can spend most of time. But if you would like to see the whole picture, we can go to inventory view, and here in this kind of topology tree, you can go through your entire vCenter list that you've added to Runecast and go through the hosts and see where and how many issues we were able to detect. So for example, here in our Bellatrix system, I can see 3 hosts, and I can quickly pick the one that has the most issues, which takes me again to the inventory for details and examination. Here, I've selected this one, and as you may notice, we are detecting this kind of L1 terminal fault problem that all of you heard in the last couple of weeks. If you expand it, again, be referring you to page and also the mitigation document, as well as the findings. So you can see all the details about the host CPU model, build version of the host, the version of the vCenter, and the build, which is the key to have the proper patching. So by this way, you can basically scan against your host and validate once you update the patches for L1TF or Spectrum Meltdown or anything else that will come in the future in regards to such vulnerabilities, if you patched your host properly. All right, let's go back and a little bit deep dive into the historical analysis. As I said, we introduced it recently, so you can use this resource issue history as the entry point to this. And right now, Runecast Analyzer is not only able to display what you scan, but also it has the full history of the changelog. I believe for you that have bigger teams and are making changes to your host regularly during maintenance, but you are not able to catch up all the time, or don't have a central system where you have the list of the changes, that this can be very good and useful for you to ensure what change impacted the health or the risk status of your host or of your entire VMware ecosystem. As you may see here, we have a quick visual chart that displays what we were able to discover and if the issue is going up or down. You can also pick up the specific time period from the time picker. And then, more importantly, if you would like to see the particular changes, just take the any, I would say, data point on the chart which represents the scan. Click on that, and then hit the compare with previous result button. And what it does, it triggers the changelog. And in this case, we give you the complete overview of the issues that are newly detected, that has changed. That means object either increased or decreased, or issues that been removed, so fixed. There is a quick summary on the top, and then you can go through the list and see what is the difference to the previous scan. And again, here in my case, in my demo setup, I can see that there is this L1 terminal fault issue that increased, so now by 13 objects been added as detected. So I can see in activity view what are all the new machines with this L1TF vulnerability detected. Again, I believe this may save you a lot of time, and especially when you're patching it very quickly to ensure your system is protected properly. This can really help you to validate where you probably left some machine, or when somebody spin up the new instance that was not properly patched. It's sorted by the severity, so obviously most critical first. And as we go down the list, then we can see the rest again, as always, with the status, if it's new, detected, increased, or solved. In this case, I have probably most of the issues new, but I can also quickly scan through that if there are some resolved, but I don't think so. Most of them are new in this potential snapshot. You can use the navigation buttons on the top and move through the chart as the scan were applied to control what are the other changes, and again, try to correlate it with your configuration management tool configuration changes you made on your host vCenters or virtual machines. Fantastic. So this is the historical trending, also been added in this latest version. And as I can mention again, you can use this sorting on the top of the UI to filter out for very specific theme, category, or VMware layer. So if, for example, want to only see the things that are related to the compute layer of the VMware, it's very fast and very interactive. Last but not least, you can export the entire page with all of the details as you filter it, so it goes as what you see basically as it looks, and share it with your colleagues, management, or whoever is interested. One more thing I can recommend to those who are involved in compliances and security profiles, you can use this to report the compliance status. So I can select, for example, this week range. In your case, could be the month or up to year. I will let the system to pull all the results, and then from the source, I can select a very specific profile. So in my case, let's say VMware security hardening. And here in this chart, it very quickly visually tells me if there was any spike, if there are any new issues detected. So I can see at the very end, I have few issues. I have actually 3 new issues that appeared. And again, I can use the compare with result functionality to discover what has changed. So there are some new objects detected. That's also the new information, and also the newly discovered issues. And again, with the information where it was detected. You can again export it and keep it as an evidence of how are you doing in terms of the compliance. If we go back to the dashboard, the one thing I would still like to mention in regard to hosts, but it's still connected, is a log analysis. I'm pretty sure that many of you using logs, they are very, very helpful in troubleshooting, but it always takes a lot of time to go through them, especially if you have a big environment. It's a simply super big heap of data. And what Runecast does is that it helps you to automatically set up the log analysis collection. So that's the first thing that should encourage you to set it up. If you go to settings and you go to log analysis, then you simply select the vCenter you've added, and you can select between the hosts or VMs. You can click configure, simply select all of them and hit the configure button, which will remotely try to set up the syslog to be forwarded to our appliance, I mean the Runecast appliance, for the analysis. Once you do that, if you click the log KB discovered, you will see the first result. So on the dashboard, we saw there are 3 log issues, and this is the result of that. So we, again, parsing them and in real time are able to correlate them to the thousands and thousands of knowledge base articles, and you can just see what issue you have from that particular log. So in this case, you have a description, you also have a solution, and in findings, you can see the object. So very quickly, I can see this is my ESXi host from Bellatrix system with this IP address. This is the timestamp of the log program, and this is log's message. As you can see, it's like super fast and super concentrated information for you to start the true troubleshooting and fixing the problem. But that's not all, because obviously that not every information is in KB, and as I mentioned at the beginning, we are trying to go beyond the scope of the defined or already defined knowledge base from VMware. So you may use log inspector, which is basically trying to identify the known patterns that our VMware engineers were able to identify over the years of experience that very typically and very likely leads to problems. So we can take this kind of fail to symptom and use this predicate analysis to display what kind of fail to predicate appears from your syslog. And again, if you drill down to any of these records, you will see immediately the host name, the message, the type of predicate, and the issue described. Again, I believe that to many of you can be handy instead of doing the deep log analysis or some regular expression search. You can first try to evaluate the very common situation that leads to problems before you do the last and very manual type of the job. Fantastic. So we went through the most of the new functionality, except the very last one I mentioned in the slide, but I didn't get over it because it's very specific to some entities and businesses. Is this PCI-DSS profile and automation of the PCI-DSS security profile. It's very easy to enable it, as I showed before. For the other things, you go to settings, security compliance, and enable the profile. For PCI-DSS, we are actually able to automate 27 controls from PCI-DSS standard, which leads to about 260 checks. And we also support NSXV with about 50 checks, and the version of the PCI-DSS is 3.2.1. So what it takes is to go to edit, enable PCI-DSS, scan your system basically, so you can select all or just one vCenter. For the purposes of the demo, I try to keep it as fast as possible during the scan, so I select only one vCenter, and then we created a specific layout for PCI-DSS to ensure that every admin or IT operational team that's responsible for the hardening is able to quickly associate what Runecast detects with how it also contributes to the PCI-DSS hardening functionality. So this is the PCI-DSS profile. Again, you can very simply use the PCI-DSS specific attributes, I would say, as a milestone / severity, where it applies to. This comes from the VMware layer. What is the product? And obviously, if it's failing or passing. As you may see, here are control IDs, and the most important information for you is here. So except the findings, as I mentioned before, where you can find the exact list of the hosts or the entities that are violating that specific check, in details, you will be able to find the description, what you need to do in most cases. So you have a fixed description that telling you what to do. And in many cases, you can, for example, use the PowerShell script we are trying to build for you. So trying to be as concentrated as possible for the admin to take the information he sees and use it directly to fix the problem and rescan the system to validate if the issue has been mitigated. So this is again Runecast specific. This information here is coming with PCI-DSS, and that was developed by the engineers here to help the guys in the production environments to speed up PCI-DSS compliance. At the end, let me look at the question list if we have any. So no questions for today. I can go back quickly to the presentation. This is all for demo. And I can only summarize at the very end what other tools we integrating with as a Runecast and Runecast Analyzer. First of all, we have a very rich REST API. That's a piece of cake to use. We have HTML5 or Flex clients for your vCenter as a web plugin. And importantly, and for some of you, interestingly, we have VRO plugin, which means that you can actually start auto-remediating some issues we are able to detect. So we're coming with some preloaded configurations, with some preloaded steps to remediate a certain knowledge base issues we are able to detect. So for you who would like to let the system to remediate things automatically because there's a high volume of the virtual machines or high level of ESXi, or it's a very dynamic environment, this is the ideal way how to mitigate the problems without actually taking any manual steps.